Good afternoon. You're watching AB Live, a brand new news-based chat show in which we discuss topics ranging from news, business, politics, and so much more. Today we are at the Dubai World Congress for Self-Driving Transport, and with me right now from Uber ATG we have Noah Zaid. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So Noah, what exactly brings you here to the Dubai World Congress?
Yeah, well, we at Uber are really excited to see the enthusiasm around this technology in the region. Self-driving is a thing that we've been working on at Uber within our advanced technologies group for a little over 4 years now, and we're very interested in continuing to talk about how we're approaching that challenge, how we're bringing the technology to bear in the world, and having really good constructive conversations with policymakers interested in accelerating the development of this technology.
All right, so as Chief of Staff, what exactly would your role curtail for Uber ATG?
Sure. So my job covers a lot of different things, but one of the key areas is focusing on our policy engagement with various stakeholders. It's really important to us to be engaged not just in developing the technology and proving out how to make it work and how to make it safe, but also to be talking with regulators and customer advocacy groups, demonstrating how we're thinking about safety and how we're going to deliver this technology safely to the world.
Right, so in terms of aligning the vision of ATG to self-driving that's happening globally, this whole revolution essentially, so what is the next step for Uber?
Sure. So for us, really, self-driving is part of Uber's overall approach to improving mobility. So we're really focused on developing self-driving in a way that will improve the lives of people in cities all around the world. And that means taking it one step at a time and really methodically developing this technology and incorporating it into our network. So we're not working towards one day in the near future where we'll just flip a switch and all cars on our network will be autonomous. We're really working at step by step and block by block, bringing this technology and the capability up to maturity, and then integrating that gradually into our network.
Right, so potentially how much time do you think that entire process would take?
So, I think there's been a lot of people out there making promises about deployment dates. We're really avoiding doing that. For us, the important thing is getting the technology right. And so that means today we're focused on the development and the safe testing of it. And we work a lot in our markets in the US, ensuring that while we're testing the vehicles on the roads, we've first tested them extensively in simulation and on our test track. And when we put them on the road, we still have multiple individuals in the vehicle supervising its development, supervising how the technology is deploying. So when we put it on the road, we're not testing to see if it works, we're proving that it does work.
All right, so is there a way to find out if it works 100%?
Yeah, so there's never 100%, and that's one of the big challenges with this is how do we determine what is safe enough and what is proven well enough. So actually recently we had published our safety case framework, which is our approach that we think cover and address all of the issues that need to be talked about for how does someone determine a system is safe enough to operate on public roads. And in doing so, we think it's all about showing we've done appropriate work to have the system be proficient, be fail-safe, be resilient, and even more importantly, continuously improving. So if it's not right at the outset, we have the systems in place to detect things that might be going wrong and remedy them in our system before they actually cause a safety event. And lastly, we're also really focused on building that trust, and that trust not just in the technology, but also in us as a company, and recognizing that there's information that we need to share and conversations we need to have with the general public as well as with regulators, sharing how we're approaching this to earn that trust.
Right, so obviously last year there was an incident that happened back in 2018, and since then Uber has been working intensively and extensively on the whole safety measures. So what more is there that needs to be done to ensure that?
Yeah, so what we published was our safety case framework, and that covers the breadth of issues that we think need to be talked about and need to be addressed and validated. But there's a lot of work to fulfill that safety case, and so what we're working on today is building out the testing regime, building out the data sharing in terms of our proof of performance that we think is appropriate, sharing how we think about having these conversations and building our internal processes to support actually being able to put this technology on the road and have it not just be what we think was sufficient, but something that we've put forward to our whole industry and to collaborate with our government regulators on what we think that level of sufficiency is.
All right. Uber as a company itself has been a disruptor in the ride-hailing sphere, of course. But as Uber ATG, what more innovations are we going to see in the coming years?
Yeah, so one of the really exciting things for us is, as the Advanced Technologies Group, being a part of Uber overall. So, as you mentioned, Uber has kind of disrupted transportation in its history. Moving forward, it's all about the next innovation. So, while we at ATG work on the self-driving technology, we also see that being part of a broader ecosystem. And the way our system works the best is in concert with other modes of transit. So, things like electric bikes, like scooters, and eventually even things like flying taxis, all brought together under the Uber umbrella.
But that's the thing, right? So we hear about all of these really amazing, really cool innovations happening. But one question I've personally had forever is, do we really need all of that? I mean, do we need self-driving cars at this juncture? I mean, because the population levels are increasing, unemployment rates are also increasing, so you need those drivers, and the whole personal human connection just goes missing with all of these technological innovations, right?
Yeah, so no, it's a really good question. It's one of the things we're really focused on, is not just developing this technology for technology's sake, but really making sure we're developing it to focus on improving the lives of people and the modes of transportation within a city. So for us, self-driving isn't the goal itself, it's a means to the end. And what we're working on is really making transportation safer for everybody throughout a city, making it more accessible and more equitable, so that people who may not be well served by existing modes of transit maybe have the opportunity through a cheaper and safer self-driving vehicle to connect into existing transit systems, or to get access to economic opportunity that today maybe not within reach because they don't own their own car. We really like to look at it from the perspective of not just doing this technology because it's cool and exciting, but because we think it can really change lives for people in a city.
No, so last week or a couple of weeks back, we had GITEX here, where 5G, AI, VR, XR, all of that was used throughout. And future mobility was one of the main things. But about future mobility was the integration of all of these aspects that I just mentioned. So with regards to Uber's ATG, how exactly are you implementing that in urban future mobility?
Yeah, so our goal is really to be thinking about developing this technology so it'll work everywhere. You know, Uber's a global company operating in over 700 cities all around the world. We want to make sure as we develop self-driving, we're developing it in a way that can work in a lot of different markets. So that means taking advantage of a lot of those technologies when they're available, but also making sure that we don't rely on them and we don't have to have huge infrastructure deployments that have to take place before we're able to introduce the amazing benefits of this technology in limited ways.
Right, but that's the thing. So in a region like this, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and Saudi, in the wider landscape where we can't keep up with the changing roads, changing trends here, our maps can't keep up. So how exactly would your technology fit into this geography?
Yeah, so for us, this technology really only makes sense as part of a fleet network. And so for us, as we bring this technology, bring self-driving onto the roads, it will be as part of the overall Uber network. So as different things change in the environment, we're supporting this on a day-over-day and hour-over-hour basis, understanding those changes, incorporating learnings from our vehicles back into our overall dispatch network. So rather than a car that's sold to an end consumer and may have maps that are out of date a month or two later, we're able to actually operate this as a service where we're able to keep those maps up to date through a constant monitoring of how our fleet's performing on the roads.
Right, but your business model around this is going to be the same pretty much, yeah?
It's very much about introducing it as part of the network, yeah. So it'll be transportation on demand.
All right, so Noah, what I want to know now is, will the business model still be the same as it is with Uber, ride-hailing, ride-sharing, and a huge part of the sharing economy, essentially, with regards to the new self-driving cars that you will be initiating whenever?
Sure. So yeah, for us, we really think the way this technology has the most benefit is it being introduced as part of a ride-sharing network. So we intend to bring our self-driving vehicles eventually onto our network in a way where riders get the right sort of mode of transportation for the right trip at the right time. So in some cases, that might be a traditional Uber. In some cases, it might be a new modality of a scooter or a bike. But in some cases, and as we go forward, in more cases, we might be able to service their trip optimally with a self-driving vehicle, or ideally even a shared self-driving vehicle. And that's how we'll introduce this technology in time.
All right, all of this sounds very, very exciting. But finally, just in terms of the future prospects and where you see this entire industry moving towards, just in closing, what would you like to say?
You know, I think for us, we really see the opportunity to work as an industry and also in collaboration with governments around the world to explain how we're thinking about developing this technology and how we can introduce it in a responsible and safe way.
Since you mentioned government now, so are there regulations already available, or is it limited when it comes to self-driving and emerging technologies?
So, it depends a lot in the U.S. and in Europe and here in the Middle East region. There's a lot of different efforts ongoing to develop the right regulations for this technology. And we think over time we'll see hopefully that standardize into a model that's both good for developing and for innovating, but also really good for protecting the needs of customers, consumers, and cities themselves.
All right, great. Thanks so much for joining us here. And again, welcome to Dubai once more. And thank you for watching AB Live. We will be back again next week.